Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 6th episode of the Semitic Roots of Maltese podcast. So today we're going to be talking about this interesting thing about this word. So this word is exactly the same as it is in Arabic, which is something like bgħid or bgħida. And one time when I was in an Arabic class, I said bgħid means something. This is far from something else. And my Arabic teacher, who is from the Levantine region, corrected me and said, at least in Fusha, whenever you say far from something, you have to say bgħid an. When an, that's a completely different preposition which doesn't exist in the Maltese variety or language. So this took a lot of getting used to because Maltese that's where I had gotten my feet wet with the Semitic languages, at least the Arabic ones. In the comparative form, which also it looks like an imperative form if it were a type 1 verb, but this ib'ad means further or farther. So i'ada ib'ad midar min lehor benidim. So this means something like she is further away from the house than the other person is. So this is a continuous tense. It's basically the past continuous tense. I know it's more complex than that, but in the evidence that I've seen mostly in literary sources such as this old translation of the Bible that I base a lot of my old work on, this seems to be used not all that often in modern language, but in this Bible translation, or at least in older literary Maltese, this can be used as he, she, blah, blah, was still doing something whenever something else. It's kind of like in Spanish, if you say something like estaba haciendo, like something that's kind of, it was going on actively in the past or something. And there's another tense in Maltese, which is ed, or it looks like qed. This one is simply for the gerundive, the present continuous marker that goes before a present verb. It's very interesting that this exists. I've seen the qed because that also exists in Arabic, but it's got a different meaning in Arabic. So this is one of those things that it came from Arabic for sure, but it's evolved into something completely different in Maltese. And because in Arabic, if depending on whether qed is before or after the verb or something like that, I know it, or in the past and the present, they have two different meanings. And in Maltese, as far as I've seen, you can only use this in the present, and it only has this gerundive, actively doing something meaning. But I'll go over that. I'll go over more of what ed is, and I'll actually provide some examples in the next episode of this podcast. Sorry, it's just a wasteland in Malta. So today's rare or an outdated word is a very interesting word. I wanted to share it today because this is one of the examples of Maltese which probably was part of an older variety or an older evolution of the language, or Middle Maltese or something. The only place I've ever seen this is in some document by Vasali, or it was a blog post, something where I guess a philologist was working on a Bible translation or doing something kind of work with Vasali, and Vasali gave him some kind of translation, and this word sha'ara, which kind of reminds me of the Sahara, but I don't think it has anything to do with it. Although that the X in Arabic, it would have been probably something like Sahara, and you also have this Karta Sahara in Maltese, it means something like carbon paper, something like that. And it kind of reminds me of how the Shams in Maltese became Shemsh. So it is possible for an S to become a Sh that way. But I just don't know. And however, after Vasali's passing, the same guy took that translation to another Maltese translator, and they said this word is not used anymore, or at least they have no idea what it was for. So I don't know if this was a word that died off sometime in Vasali's time, or if it was already like rare during his life, and then he just was one of the last people to know it. I have no clue, but this was an interesting word meaning desert or wasteland. And today's trilateral, not quadrilateral root. So coming into Malta on a cruise ship here. So this verb, ja, which looks a lot like ja in Arabic, this verb, it's a pretty simple one. There's not really much to it, but it's a versatile verb because it can also be used as a past participle marker. This root mostly just deals with coming and going, the coming of time, the going of time, coming to a place. It also, another thing I found interesting here, I usually don't use 2 bullet points on these trilateral root slides, but it's interesting to note, I'm just going to call it time past and future. And the reason why is because yiji, miji, you have this first word here, miji or mijia, meaning the coming, the arrival, like the coming of Christ in a religious context, or the arrival of a cruise ship, or the advent of the holiday season. You have all these like markers that signify when something is going to happen, and then you have a jayani, which is the future, and this is an adjective form that would mean something like that which is coming, something like that, which is the future. And in Arabic, they're using a different word from what I understand. I don't know. There may be other Maghreb dialects which use this jayani for the future, or some other variety, Neo-Arabic variety. I have no clue. But G, it can also mean something in the past. So I've seen it. I'm not, again, this is kind of where I don't have a lot of information about it, like ed yekelem in that other example, or if you're using ed yiji is coming at this moment, when you can also use the short form J, which is one of the very few short forms that is actually used in everyday Maltese. And then you've got this other one where kif can mean like or as, in addition to how. It's also just like as it comes. As it comes, it comes. As it came, it came. That's literally what it means. As came. And then this is just like, their way of saying randomly. Not random, but randomly. And then you have, you got carelessly as well. So something just happens randomly. Nobody, blah marid. You don't even, doesn't even matter. Don't care. So we'll talk about Gia, more about it, along with ed and ed and se. There's a lot of these particles that go before the verb, which is a relic from Arabic, and they're mostly just things that you put in front of the verb to mark, time, or some kind of time, like whether you're doing something, will do something, had done something. There's a few of them, but yeah, that's all I had for today. Thank you everyone for watching this video. Please spread the news of it, share it, comment on it if you want to comment on it, and I'll see everybody in the next video.